All right, just a couple minutes late, but I think we're all good to go. I have Nico here representing Tahoe. I invited you as a co-host, Nico, just in case anything happens. Clayton, I'm actually going to invite you as well because I think we all are very familiar with Twitter Spaces just not being the most reliable. So better to have more co-hosts with us. So yeah, I sent that to you, Clayton. But yeah, everyone, we are live on zkSync. Let's go. It's such a perfect timing to have this initial kickoff for our zkSummer campaign. An incredible group of teams who are behind some of the hottest dexes available on zkSync. And that's kind of like the number one question, right? When a new chain comes up, it's like, where am I going to be doing my trading? So very happy to have, of course, our co-host, the Tahoe team, but also with us today, our team representatives from veSync, Mute, and Maverick. So we have Alvin from Maverick. I believe we have Jasmine from veSync, and then from Mute we have Matt. So yeah, welcome everyone. If you don't mind, maybe we'll start with the veSync team. Just give a very brief introduction about your protocol and who's representing today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jasmine. I'm the co-founder of veSync. So in short, veSync is a VE33 DEX on zkSync right now. We have running for about 2 and 3 months, and everything is so good right now. And we are going to do our community airdrop in coming days. And yeah, and for veSync, we provide a low fee swapping service for the users, and also we are helping the zkSync ecosystem protocol to build up their liquidity and trying to help them create a VE33 file well. Yeah, thanks.
So thanks for joining today. And next, Alvin representing for Maverick today. If you can give us a brief intro.
Hey, thanks for having me. So briefly about Maverick. Maverick is a capital efficient next-gen AMM, automated market maker. So we built a example DEX on top of Maverick AMM. We launched on zkSync about 3-4 months ago, and we've seen really great activity on zkSync, and we've been processing some meaningful volume every day. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to get the Mute team back on, but yeah, thanks so much for joining, Alvin. I sent a request actually to you, Matt, to come back on as a speaker.
We're live on zkSync.
Yes.
Ooh.
Woo! Oh man, it feels really good to finally get there. Oh my gosh. So excited to have this campaign kick off and finally be deployed there. It's really awesome. Oh, Matt, we have you back. If you wanted to give a bit of a rundown on what Mute is and who you are as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Sorry about that. I think, like you said earlier, Twitter Spaces is buggy sometimes, so like booted us. But yeah, happy to chat about Mute, about who we are. So we're basically a DeFi platform, a native one on top of zkSync. We have our native AMM DEX, which has a standard and concentrated pools. We have a farming platform and a bond issuance platform. So far to date on zkSync, since we launched in April, we've done about like $450 million in volume and around 6 million transactions settled. So we're pretty much there for a bunch of users who want to engage on the new chain. There's a lot of opportunity for like earning, because there's a lot of arbitrage between a bunch of chains right now. So it's a really simple to use DEX, and it gives access to DeFi users who want to be able to experiment with zk rollup based networks.
Lovely. Thanks so much for that intro. I wanted to just ask anyone can kind of come up. By the way, we don't have a special order of how everyone can sort of participate. I'm actually going to go to the question I sent you guys in the agenda, question 3. Since Uniswap v2, like, what are we seeing now on L2 AMM, such as yourselves? Like, how much have the mechanics of DEX ecosystems evolved? I know you mentioned just now, Matt, you were mentioning there's also bond issuance mechanisms along with farming, who we're all familiar with. And then how much has like capital efficiency improved? And how else can you like comment on where we're at in the DEX evolution?
For sure. I guess I'll go and then maybe you can spin it to Alvin. Maybe you could talk about capital efficiency for Maverick. But so I think there's a few things, right? Like there's a lot of new native technologies that are being built on chain, like on zkSync, for example, that's allowing us to do pretty cool stuff. So in terms of like Uni V2, when you look at that, there are newer ways to earn, right? So like with Mute, for example, your fees are not being accumulated like into your liquidity, which is always like super confusing on how to track what you're actually earning. So there's fee vaults that pull out your fee earnings and you're able to kind of yield those and use those in different ways as you're providing liquidity. So you can keep your whole liquidity intact, maintain it there. And as well as, there's different types of pools now. Like, you have that normal V2 curve, and then you have concentrated liquidity pools for stable coins. And then on top of that, I think I want to get to the things that are pretty cool for like a UX perspective for users. So, with account abstraction, we're able to offer things like gasless swaps where, you don't necessarily need to use Ethereum as gas, where let's say like you're swapping USDC for wrapped Bitcoin. With that swap, with account abstraction, we can essentially take your USDC, take a little portion of that on the backside, swap that for Ethereum, use that as gas, all in one transaction. So the user's not even spending gas in it, but his USDC is being used as gas, if that makes sense. So you don't need Ethereum anymore, or you won't eventually if you're not really using it for trading and stuff like that. You'll be able to use other tokens as gas on the network, which is really cool.
Oh, it's like the music to our ears, really, right? Because I think even right now the GUI is super high. But I guess we'll pass it over to Alvin.
Yeah, I think Matt from Mute, had a really comprehensive sort of overview of capital efficiency of AMMs. To us, obviously we've been looking into it for some time. We think Uni V2 is great because that essentially started DeFi Summer in 2020, but it wasn't necessarily capital efficient. It's kind of like when an LP on Uni V2 is kind of like pouring a bottle of water in a swimming pool. So at any given point of price is very shallow liquidity. Hence the capital efficiency is low, slippage could be high for traders. And from there you have Uni V3, which I think is revolutionary because now as an LP you can customize your liquidity at a certain price as you wish. But in reality, a lot of the pairs, what happened was LPs they're not sure what exactly is the price or like where the price is going next, right? If you LP at ETH price at 2,000, if it moves to $2,010, your liquidity doesn't move with it. It becomes sort of inefficient liquidity. For Maverick, we tackle that problem from a perspective natively moving liquidity concentration where your liquidity follows the price. So it becomes very efficient around the price, concentrated. It is essentially pretty great for stables and semi-stables like LSTs. So yeah, and I think from there, I guess a bit more on zkSync. I feel zkSync DeFi scene has been very lively. Everyone's doing something cool, whether it's on the native level or product level or UI UX level, and that's the way it should be. So for us, obviously, um, you know, thank you across for the chance to have us sort of have a call with each other, and really looking forward to build on top of each other, as the DeFi Monday Lego goes on top of zkSync.
Oh, nice. No, of course. Thank you all for joining, and yeah, really interesting answers so far. Curious to hear what the team at veSync has to say.
I think compared to Maverick and Build, as for the point of improving the capital efficiency, veSync is more focused on using the VE3 model to increase to incentive the user to join the DEX and to provide a deeper liquidity. In short, we increase the capital efficiency in a different method, different from the trading, but for the liquidity and we distribute the trading fee with a different rate is by voting mechanism. So I think it's another solution.
Okay, and I know we talked like a bit about how we've evolved since Uniswap v2, and talked a little bit about sort of the ingenuity of the pools in Uniswap v3. How does announcements like Uniswap X sort of shake things up, if at all, for U3 in terms of like the design of your protocol?
Yeah, I think, I guess we'll go first. It doesn't really change much, I think, because at least for us, like Uniswap X is cool, similar to CowSwap in a sense, if people are familiar with that. But I think for like most of the time, so Mute is essentially, it's an entire DeFi platform, and we have a whole entire incentivization scheme, right? For liquidity providers, for traders. We use fees generated on the platform as like the treasury revenue, and we cycle that back into liquidity providers and traders, etc. So there's a whole entire dynamic where people are incentivized to trade and use it because you'll eventually, you save more, you earn more, etc. Whereas, like on other, if you look at Uniswap X, right, it's just strictly a trading platform, a swapping platform. You're going there to conduct swaps, whereas like there's an entire ecosystem being built with Mute. So it's different in a sense where we're building a whole incentivization and reward network, whereas you're going over there just to create swaps, which is both are great in their own fashion. But I think as Uniswap X evolves, a lot of other AMM technologies will evolve as well to create more efficient liquidity across the ecosystem, and that comes with fragmentation from L2s, which eventually will be unified, not soon, but eventually. And so, liquidity should be deep across all markets. And a lot of AMMs on chain should be able to benefit from that.
Very interesting. I thought it would have, for some reason, I thought it would have like a really big impact. Anyone else have any points, or if we can move forward?
Yeah, I think agree with Matt. Uniswap X is essentially a aggregator, and DeFi is at a stage where it's getting more mature. A lot of volumes are processed through aggregators like, 1inch, Paraswap, CalSwap, Odos, and whatnot. So, being capital efficient, having a good pricing can really win through those kind of competition underneath aggregators. So I think that's super important, and it's actually really interesting. We've seen most of the volume are routing through aggregators like 1inch, Paraswap on ETH mainnet from Maverick, but then a totally different dynamic on zkSync, where we've seen a lot of the native UI users to do swaps on DEXes on zkSync. So it's definitely interesting to see. So, but yeah, I think Uniswap X is nothing really new, and but it's good to see like more like productized approach from Uniswap.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to pop in real quick and say hi. Having a little mic trouble there at the beginning of the call.
Well, thanks for joining, Nico. Yeah, happy to have the Tahoe team here representing.
It is an honor to be on a panel with so many amazing projects. So yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're obviously on the wallet side. I I love all these comments that everybody's making, and our approach obviously on the wallet side is just really to be agnostic. We are a community-owned wallet. Just to give a little bit of background, we're basically trying to get away from centralized, bank funded. A lot of projects like MetaMask have major funding from, centralized financial institutions, and they've got profit sheets, So our approach is really a community driven project. We're moving to be community owned and DAO operated. And I think in that framework, we love to just be agnostic and allow our users to connect to all of these amazing aggregators. So that's sort of our approach as well. I know it's frustrating being in certain jurisdictions and seeing these amazing projects and not being allowed to connect, because of a wallet's internal business choices. So yeah, that's just kind of the way we're taking the approach. These are great questions, by the way, Amanda.
Well, yeah, feel free to jump in if you have any, by the way. And also in the chat, I think there's like quite a few comments. I'll go through and pick some out. Thanks so much, everyone, for being so active in the chat. Yeah, but if it's okay to move on, I think we were all just chatted a little bit about the liquidity fragmentation that we're seeing. And I just wanted to ask, like, what are some of the challenges, since we aren't all at like a seamless, universal liquidity pool? And I just wanted to know, what are the challenges in attracting liquidity for you all? And how's it been sort of like going in terms of building the TVL? Maybe we can start with veSync this time.
About building the liquidity and TVL, veSync try a lot of measures. So first we build up TVL with using a higher APR than other DEX to attract people to provide liquidity on veSync, and in exchange for the yield farming reward. But with the token price drop, and right now we change another strategy is by incentive the user who are interested in the zkSync token airdrop in the future token airdrop, to attract them to join the veSync and to experiences the V33 model on zkSync right now. And we think and to attract more users, we are working on collaborate with a lot of other ecosystem protocol to increase our protocol exposure, and try to and also try to provide a better experiences for the users. And in this way, we hope to use the product to like the user to stay in our protocol and provide liquidity. So I think, yeah, for the DEX to increase the TVL or liquidity, one method is by using the yield farming strategy, but it's not sustainable. Yeah, and the other way is to trying to use more to use collaboration strategy and to increase the exposure and to attract more user to try the product and let the users stay in the product by their experiences and some other incentive like future airdrop or some trading fee reward or something else. Yeah, that's our strategy.
Okay, awesome. And you did mention earlier that the airdrop is coming very, very soon. So I think everyone will want to hear a little bit more about that. I'm sure everyone's very keen. Ears are perked when they hear that word. So yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit more than that. But in terms of just like liquidity constraints across different chains and sort of how you've strategized to attract TVL, I'd like to also hear from either Mute or Maverick.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in first on that. So I think that's an interesting question, and I think I'll kind of break it down. There's a few things that kind of go into that. So since we launched like on Mute, and just I just want to make a note, like whenever there's any new chains, new technology, etc., it's always important for users to kind of go with projects that are transparent, right? With their audits, with their code source. People are always excited to jump on new chains and test out so many different projects. But it's always important to know that, that project should be, audited, contract should be verified on chain, and all of that should be transparent. It reduces the risk of, your funds being hacked and all of that stuff. So we've kind of taken that in a good direction at Mute. So when we launched, we launched audits on all our contracts. We've verified all of our stuff on chain, and we've been completely transparent since day one of our launch. And so, with that being said, I think like when I was talking about earlier on how fees are accumulated for LP holders. So here's like a really rough number. So on our Ethereum USDC pools, I think since we launched in April, we've had like an average of around 17% to 20% APY on your liquidity. And that's like with no outside incentivizations. That's strictly you're earning rewards in Ethereum and USDC based on the liquidity you're providing and based on the trading volume on the exchange. So it's been relatively high, and this is because a lot of people are arbitraging between chains. There's a lot of volume coming into zkSync. Now that you have a bunch of L2s and fragmented liquidity, there's a lot of traders trying to maintain prices on all those chains and trading that. So it's a good opportunity for users to, if you have Ethereum and USDC, to kind of earn a passive yield on that. And so just from our fee mechanisms and structure with our dynamic fee models, like users have been able to earn pretty nice APYs natively without outside incentivizations, and that's probably a good reason why users are putting liquidity in Mute. And on top of that, we have an entire like incentivization program additional to those base APYs. Like I was mentioning earlier, how the Mute protocol takes a portion of revenue, cycles it back into buying the Mute token on market, and then it takes that Mute token buyback and it distributes it to LP providers. So it's essentially, it's increasing the yield that LPs are earning by, granting them additional Mute rewards. it's essentially just risk-free on top of liquidity providing on the exchange, where you don't have to do any fancy lockups or anything like that. And so it's just a very simple design, straightforward, transparent system. And I think that's pretty important in DeFi because there's a lot of obscurity. So, especially on a new chain, I think, simple stuff like that works.
Oh my, yes, absolutely. And in the bridging space as well, like totally share the sentiment that just with all the past that DeFi has suffered in the bridging space, like transparency and having like security at the forefront is really the best course of action. So yeah, and it plays a huge role.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also mention one last thing that kind of ties into that for us as well, is that we are transitioning into becoming a full on-chain DAO, which essentially, like all mute holders, we have a VE locking system that'll essentially control the entire DAO. So all the revenue that the platform generates, all the protocol variables, etc., will be controlled by VE mute holders. So I think like right now at the current rate, there's about $100,000 going into a DAO treasury that, these VE mute holders will kind of own and control, be able to incentivize different liquidity positions, et cetera. So it's just another big step for us into kind of decentralizing the protocol itself and creating, a transparent structure for users, traders, liquidity providers, et cetera. So we're really excited for that, and we think it's going to be a huge step into kind of the evolution of how our entire platform functions.
Okay, and Alvin, did you want to speak on this as well? How the liquidity attraction has been working over at Maverick?
Yeah. So for Maverick, it's actually quite different. So we'll launch on Ethereum mainnet first. That liquidity growth on mainnet was way slower than sort of the growth on zkSync, right? Just because we think
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
obviously more active users, more sort of airdrop expectations, people are more active on zkSync. So it was very organic, the liquidity growth on zkSync, whereas on ETH, we've seen a lot of we've done a lot of the meetings with institutions, right, like professional sort of on-chain liquidity hedge funds, for example, where sure they deploy at a larger amount of TVL, but they're very sort of diligent and smart about the TVL. So yeah, I think it's just very different. But I think bottom line is TVL is important, but we think it's probably not the most important part. Right, capital efficiency is important. Product UX is important. I just feel at the end of the day, if all the DeFi protocols are using TVL as the sort of metric to measure success and whatnot, that will encourage a lot of the sort of mercenary LPs across different chains, across different platforms. So it doesn't really generate a lot of volume or yield for LPs necessarily. Yeah.
Well, does that ever ring a bell, like Clayton? Across two, we always felt the same way that capital efficiency is like most important, and TVL is a fun metric when you look at like DeFi Llama, but doesn't really necessarily paint the whole picture. So yeah, that's interesting. Thank you all for your answers so far. What I wanted to ask was like, just to go back to the agenda, actually question 2. zkSync Era is still a young chain. So I wanted to ask if maybe in like a concise way, if you all could sort of pitch your DEX and do that by letting us know like how your protocol separates itself from the pack, and sort of what your competitive edge is.
Yeah, I can share my opinion about
Thank you.
this question. Yeah, because I think since zkSync is still a young chain, and I think that the TVL is not so high compared to other layer two like Optimism and Ultra. And so right now on zkSync, there are a lot of protocol and like the veSync, Maverick, and Build, and a lot of protocol are landing on zkSync step one by one, like across. And I think this protocol they are playing different role and provide different service for the users, and the user have the right to choose uh, based on their interest and based on their investing strategy. And for veSync, our idea is to keep building the product, and because there are a lot of innovation in V33 in this in the past few months, like the Velodrome V2, and we are also considering and reviewing about the Velodrome V2 and try to separate from other protocol by introduce some improvement in product, like for example, like the protocol upgrade, or introduce new function for user, like using the account abstraction technology on zkSync to help user to do some automatic operation like voting and compounding their yield farming. Yeah, and that's our strategy.
Okay, great. And Matt, maybe from you, if you wanted to go on next.
Sure. Yeah, I think we kind of like touched base on this already, like before in the other points, which is like, this whole entire DAO structure that we're launching is really a big step into decentralizing and democratizing the entire protocol. And on top of that, it's worth mentioning that like our mute tokens are all circulated fully in supply. And like the DAO controls, I think around 6-7%, 8%, and then other than that, there's no other large holders like the DAO, and there's no lockups, right? So the mute tokens there, it's gonna, the value lies in the DAO metrics and essentially how you can use the token on the platform. But I think for users, it's kind of a refreshing experience because you'll be able to participate in a platform and own a share of it, and I guess get the value that is being generated on that platform being distributed to that DAO. So I think there's a whole entire feedback, like a value feedback loop there for users, and so I think it's very unique in that sense because not a lot of DeFi platforms are created like that. So it's definitely going to be, one of the only DAOs on DeFi DAOs on zkSync. So it'll kind of let users give them a good idea for how on-chain DAOs work, and hopefully that'll kind of push the entire DeFi ecosystem in a good direction on zkSync.
Nice. And Alvin, yeah, as Matt mentioned, like I think you all did mention like the benefits of your protocol, but just one more time as a refresher, like what the differentiating factor is for Maverick.
Yep. Happy to walk through that. So one of the innovations of Maverick is while we're concentrating LP's liquidity, your liquidity also moves around as the price moves. So I guess the pro of that is very capital efficient. If you look at Uniswap V3, like at any given point, it's probably around 1 to 5% of the total pool's TVL are being efficient. But for Maverick, that number could go to like 50, 60, or even more than that percentage that is efficient TVL. So what that means is with a lower amount of TVL, Maverick can provide a better price. That also means potentially as LP, the yield could be a little bit sweeter. And for traders, it could be lower slippage on larger trades as well. And is especially great for stables and LSTs because for stables now you don't have to spread your liquidity across several ticks. You can focus on 1 or 2 ticks, so it's put into better use. And for LSTs, because it moves around, example being Lido, WSD ETH pool, WSD ETH gains around 4 to 5% price growth per year over ETH. So that requires the liquidity being moved once or twice per day. So Maverick automatically does that. So LPs can enjoy sort of higher capital efficiency. I think another layer is we have different modes, right? Because the con for high capital efficiency is higher responsibility. Because now efficiency is higher, your potential infra loss or perma loss could be higher as well. So by giving LPs more freedom to choose their different movement modes, now LPs can have their different strategies, right? For example, you can only move as the price goes up, that's mode right, and you move as the price goes down, it's mode left, or you can move both ways, or just being static, similar to Uniswap V3. So for next step, we're focusing on 2 aspects. One is integration or ecosystem, where for protocols who are building on top of, for example, Uniswap V3 or V2, they can build on top of Maverick AMM that gives pretty much everything Uniswap provides, but more freedom, more capital efficiency, and being directional. So that is our #1 priority, to build our ecosystem where more protocols can enjoy the quality of Maverick AMM. And from there, we are working with several protocols to build liquidity lockers on top of Maverick. So now users can lock their map to be VE map, and this is across different chains as well. So for retails, if you sort of dedicate your VE map to different protocols, you can enjoy more yield on top of that, or potential airdrop from that protocol. And for projects, when you accumulate VE map, you can direct map emission in the near future to your pool to bootstrap more liquidity. And for different chains as well as a new chain, if you lock map as a VE map on your chain, you can further sort of bootstrap the whole DeFi scene and liquidity with VE map on your chain as well. So that's sort of the 2 major directions we're building toward, and super excited to be on zkSync and hopefully to work with other protocols down the road on zkSync as well.
Oh well, yeah, a lot of ways to build on top of Maverick. Interesting. Thanks for sharing those points. I wanted to ask you actually, Alvin, if we can just talk really quickly about the incentive program, Maverick Ecosystem Incentive Program. Could you just shed a bit of light on what that is? Because I saw it's like a recent initiative.
Yep. So that's essentially our second season, or the next season of Airdrop, where we prioritize LPs, we prioritize protocols building on top of Maverick, whether it's yield aggregator like tokenomics, for example, or on-chain money manager, or even a DEX using Maverick's AMM to build. We all welcome that, and from there we will we'll calculate more on the contribution of the ecosystem and distribute airdrop from there. So that's essentially the initiative.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, nice. Thanks for shedding some light on that. And I wanted to pass the baton back to Matt. We had a couple of questions, and actually, I was curious as well personally from Blockscriber and a few others. If you could explain a bit more about the mute bonds and how those work.
Yeah, for sure. So we launched a bond protocol on Mute, and we've only launched a couple of bonds for Mute itself so far. Right now, they haven't been live for a couple of weeks. We kind of paused that, but essentially, bonds are. I think if anyone's familiar with like Olympus and their bonding programs that they kind of had, it's a very similar structure. So bonds basically allow you to buy a token at a discount by trading it up for certain liquidity. So for example, like it's a free bond market where let's say like there's a tranche of 10,000 mute tokens being sold in the bond, and every hour the price discount of that 10,000 mute increases to swap for like Ethereum USDC liquidity or mute Ethereum liquidity. And so there's a free market. You can think of it as kind of like a Dutch auction almost, but it's a free market of traders there that are able to kind of capture this discount. And once somebody buys that tranche, then the bond has been purchased, and then it resets, and then the whole entire discount pricing functionality like resets back to zero, and then it restarts. So when somebody purchases that bond, then those tokens are locked up for X amount of days, but you essentially we're able to secure these tokens at a discount on market. So
Can I get some reactions in the chat if everyone can hear me? I think I just
I
lost
can
the
hear you.
link. Okay, great. Or maybe we lose Matt there for a sec because I wasn't sure what just happened. But okay.
You sound good. It's a little buggy today, but you sound real good.
Okay. I think Matt maybe got kicked out for a sec. So we'll again pass the baton back to Jasmine from veSync. I wanted to ask like why your team decided to go with VE33 tokenomics, and if you can talk a little bit about the upcoming airdrop as well. Oof, I think we lost the veSync team as well. No.
I've got so much FOMO. I couldn't hear what they were saying about the airdrop.
I know we did hear Alvin's though, like so yeah, Maverick's airdrops are like the round 2 that's happening right now. We did get to hear about that. Alvin, since you're still with us, I wanted to ask before we run out of time, what your multi-chain strategy is. Like, are you guys planning to just stay on or focus on L2s, I should rather say?
Yeah, happy to share more. So when we think of a new chain, is narrative based as well as what is our edge on that chain. So for example, we think zkSync is pretty focused on LST narrative moving forward. So that works very well with our narrative being the go-to DEX or the LST centric DEX out there, and so that's more on the narrative side. On the user side, it's also very important. We on ETH, a lot of our users are through aggregators and through us, so we don't have a lot of retail users on our UI. We basically win every cent of the trade through aggregators. But on zkSync, we've seen a lot of native active users is a huge plus, and main part of the reason why we launch on zkSync. Also, technology has been pretty amazing on zkSync as well. We recently launched on Base as well, so that user base is a bit different as well, where they have a lot of the Coinbase wallet users routed to the Base chain. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the 2 reasons or the 2 priorities when we consider multi-chain strategy. But yeah, I was just at ECC. It definitely feels a L2 summer to me. Pretty much all the L2s are there, hosting events, onboarding developers and pitching developers and whatnot. It was just very interesting to see. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear that. But for us too, it's not always black and white, right? Where we should focus our resources, because there are so many incredible chains that are either established or coming out, like a lot of really cool zk EVM, for example. So it's like, oh, where do we go next? Base, of course, too, another huge one. I did ask to the veSync team, happy to have you, both yourself and Mute team back. Really wanted to know sort of why your team went ahead with the V3 tokenomics, and if you could tell us a little bit more about the upcoming airdrop, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, happy to come back. There's some lucky in my network. As for the veSync or V33 airdrop, we plan to distribute the VEVS token to the user who provide liquidity and who join the veSync protocol governance, like doing the voting work and also doing the swapping work on veSync. Yeah, those are those users can receive the VEVS community airdrop, and we have already set up a leaderboard for users to check how much LP value they provide and how much gas they use on veSync, and how many times they vote they vote in the epoch. Yeah, and with the VEVS, which represent the voting power and also the voting power in the protocol, and also in the veSync DAO, because we are going to turn the veSync protocol under the DAO governance, and which we are, and with the DAO governance, we are going to use the snapshot tool to manage all the stuff and the proposal, including like decide, like the DAO to deciding how to distribute the future airdrop, maybe for example, distribute the future token airdrop like 80% to the DAO token holder, I mean the VEVS token holder, and 30% used to incentive the liquidity to attract more user. And yeah, so in short, all the veSync user will be receive the token airdrop, and the airdrop token can be used to decide if the future development and the future governance of the protocol.
Okay, amazing. That's some really great alpha. I really love to hear it. I wanted to ask Matt about what Mute's multi-chain strategy looked like.
Yeah, for sure. So I think so right now our priority is building out on zkSync and deploying the rest of our protocol on there, including the DAO and all other UX features like gasless swaps, etc. As for multi-chain, like cross-chain stuff, that's a tough one you were mentioning earlier. Like there's brand new L2s coming out. It feels like every other month or so, I think it's really tough for a project to decide on which L2 you want to be on. For us, we had always initially planned on just being a native zkSync based project, but with their DAO releasing and everything, I think it's obviously just kind of up to like Mute and DAO holders on where and if they want to deploy cross-chain, right? So our contracts are all open source, all transparent. Like anyone can essentially deploy any of our contracts on these chains, link them back to our DAO initializers, and then we're live on there. It just is a matter of having a UI working for that. So I think for cross-chain, it just depends on our community, primarily just because, anytime you want to roll to a different chain as a project, you need to essentially, you want to have users, right? So that's a big part of it. So there's enough demand for a certain thing, it kind of, rolls onto the project and people are able to kind of vote on that direction, at least in terms of mute. So.
Yes, that's right. That is the best course of action. You're absolutely right. It's just having everyone vote, and that makes things a lot easier than to put it all on the team. Because as you said, there's so many options now in terms of where to next for multi-chain deployments. What about veSync? Any plans, like short-term plans for new chain deployments?
It's a pretty interesting topic, and also we are doing a lot of internal discussion about shall we deploy the veSync to the other chain. And right now we are still doing internal discussion, maybe based on the coming soon scroll might be our next target. But it's not confirmed right now because we are still doing a lot of consideration, like for example, like shall we deploy a new token on the other chain, and how to bring benefit for our current user when we deploy to the other chain, like the token airdrop on the other chain, or doing some compensation for those who support us from since our day one. And there are lot of things to discuss. So right now we cannot make a decision, and we also would love to discuss with our partner who have already deployed on other chains like Base or like Base or Linear to listen their idea and suggestion, and then we will make our final decision in next month. Thanks.
Nice. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's right. Multi-chain token liquidity too is another thing that we have to look at.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, guys, ACX is going to be on Velodrome next week, so that's our first Optimism multi-chain liquidity for our token.
Yeah, totally agree.
It's not easy to manage all those things perfectly.
Because for RE33 DEX, as you can see, most of the RE33 DEX are stick on one chain, and when they bridge to the other chain, they always launch a new token. But I'm not sure if it is the best method to do this, because you have to protect your current users if you just to launch a new IDO or to launch a new token. Maybe the current token holder will disagree or unsatisfied with such a matter.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're all out of time now, but really thank everyone, and thanks everyone in the audience. So many questions for this panel. Like, I really could not keep up with all the comments and also speaking requests. So sorry we didn't have time to get all of them, but we'd love to just have some final words from our guests today. And if you want to sneak in any good comments about your experience with Tahoe and with Across in the past, we'd love to hear that as well. Just throwing that out there. But just any final words of why people should maybe try out your protocol. And thanks so much for joining. Seriously, it was so much fun.
I just want to jump in and thank Across. I mean, it is really, you asked earlier about a competitive edge. And
I think I'll go first. So really great to see Cross and Tahoe beefing up the infra, seeing a zkSync. I think as a semi-new chain, infra is super important, not only for developers but just for retail users. So it's just super great to see that, and really looking forward to contribute and having fun on zkSync platform, and hope to build more with each other and get the DeFi money Lego going.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for your kind words. Thanks for joining, Alvin. It was so fun, seriously, to get to know Maverick. Yeah, great backers behind your protocol. So I think everyone has their eyes on you guys. I think Matt might be having some connection problems. So any final words from? Oh, you're back. Any final words from the Mute team, Matt, or from veSync team?
Oh yeah, I'm still reading some question in the comment Zoom, and I think some of the question can I try to answer some interesting question. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe we can do it in text because I think we're gonna end now. So just wanted like some final goodbyes.
Okay, so yeah, so
Long.
for our side, I think yes, stay tuned on us, and we will stay in on zkSync, yeah, and stay with the community, yeah. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. Look out for announcement of winners from the incredible giveaways that were for participating in today's space. We'll have more incredible panels, AMAs. Tomorrow's AMA is an hour exactly at this time, so 24 hours from now, with zkitties, which is such a fun, I think such an innovation actually in NFTFi. Having the NFT is really interesting utility because it does the airdrop farming for you, which I think we are very smart utility for the sort of phase we are in Web3. So thanks everyone for joining. zkSync bridging is now live on across. And yeah, use your Tahoe wallet to get across to Maverick. Try it out, Mute, try it out, and veSync, try it out. And sorry that we didn't get to hear final goodbyes from Matt, but I think there were some connection issues. But yeah, we thank you guys so much for joining. Nico, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Thank you.